Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for joining us today. What happens when a small town police chief refuses to play politics? No one expected 3 trials and 1 conviction. You're about to hear the story straight from the man they tried to silence, as well as some witnesses to the case. Was it justice or political payback? You be the judge, but first, a Trump update. So it looks like we may be going to war with Iran. And even though it may be a fast and furious thing, the president hopes it'll be fast and furious. Number one, he still needs to get permission from Congress to do this. That's true for any president. We've gotten away from that over the last several decades, and it's been a problem. Number two, we've got all these Islamists in our country, a lot more in the last few years because the border's been wide open. So I'm sure that they are ready to strike, and I don't see whereas our military or our law enforcement really have a clue about political Islam and what to do here in the country pushing back on that. I mean, we've got CARE, we've got Hamas supporters, and of course, Trump wants to bring in Qatar and have them invest trillions in our economy. Well, if they're going to invest trillions in our economy, they're going to have more Muslims over here. That's going to be a problem. Islam is a problem. Don't kid yourself. And yes, if we can't let Iran get a nuke, but there's still problems even if we deal with that because Islam is the problem. Now, some good news. President Trump has gone back to, hey, we're going to deport everybody. He kind of reversed what he said earlier in the week, and that's a good thing because they all need to go. It's not just the bad ones that need to go. They all broke the law coming here, and they're taking American jobs. They're costing us money. They need to go. If you want to come to this country, you got to come here the right way. I have 3 guests today. Former Chief of Police of Galloway, Tennessee, Billy Phillips. Former Administrative Clerk for that department, Dean Cantrell, a retired Sergeant Major with the Marine Corps. And Jason Collins, also a former police chief from West Tennessee, joining us via Zoom. They have an interesting story with substantial documentation and a common, let's say, nemesis. Today you will hear the story and see at least some documentation. You will have to decide for yourself if it was fair or foul. So, Billy, we're going to start with you.
Sure.
Let's hear your story.
Well, I think, summer of 1998, I was attending Galloway First Baptist Church, and I was teaching Sunday school class out there. That's how I met Governor Wilder at church. And he wanted me to have a meeting with he and Mayor Watson and see if I could help Mayor Watson with his police department. The previous police chief was a part-time police chief and truck driver by trade. And you got 3 federally subsidized housing projects, one of them pretty good size, and 2 smaller ones. But drugs and crime were rampant there. The drug dealers in Shelby County found Galloway easy to work because they didn't have any police department, active police department. I mean, it was just part-time. So when I got there, I first told Governor Wilder and Mayor Watson, I don't want it. That's $7.50 an hour back then.
Right.
I said, if I can get a little, no, we can't do any more than that. I said, and Governor Wilder told me, says, if you'll take the job and help Mayor Watson, I'll help you any way I can. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I took the department, and when I started, there were 2 patrol cars. Both of them were broke down. They had over 250,000 miles on each one. And the one I was trying to repair and work would overheat, and it became too much trouble. So I purchased my own police car, financed it at the bank, and leased it to the city for $1 a year.
Okay, so this is a lease agreement, and obviously a lot of pages to that. But,
well, that's the bank note there.
Okay.
I paid $6,500 and what? $6,500.
$6,575.
Okay,
Interest rate 11.9.
That's right. And a friend of mine was a local business owner. If you'll look through there, you'll see where he bought one they were retired units from Villanova Police Department.
Okay.
He bought one, I bought the other one.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, you want to put that, you want to hang on to it? Or?
Sure. Just
Okay.
set it right there.
All right. So,
So the county's not out any money for these?
the city, no.
Okay.
I leased them to the city. The only thing they did.
They're out $1 a year.
$1 a year.
Yeah, I leased them to the city for $1 a year, and I had to lease them to the city to be able to use them and to get MTAS insurance on them.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so we bought the patrol cars, and then when we got that vehicle, I located Florida Highway Patrol retired Mustang. So I bought that vehicle for $4,000. Brian Massey at this time left me and went to the sheriff's office. But I flew Brian Massey to Florida to drive this car back. So he brought the car back. I took the car to ComServe to have emergency equipment put on it. My wife dropped me by ComServe to pick the vehicle up. While driving it back to Galloway, I thought, oh man, that's a fast car. I don't want to put young officers in this. So I was not comfortable putting that in a bullpen. So Brian said, well, if you're not going to use it, let me buy it. So I sold the vehicle to Officer Brian Massey for $4,000.
So now you bought it originally for you bought it.
I bought it for $4,000. It's in the court transcripts. I don't have a receipt for it. That's the only receipt I can't find.
Okay. Okay.
And so I get $4,000. I sold it to Brian for $4,000.
Right.
I took the $4,000 to Miss Francis. She was a city recorder.
Okay.
And I said, Francis, I've got to do something. We don't have any money. I got 2 handheld radios. I had to buy my own cars. Take this $4,000 and set it aside. I can't just. She was uncomfortable doing that. So I called Governor Wilder. He came to City Hall and had a meeting with Miss Francis and myself. That's how we came up with the Galloway Projects Fund.
Okay.
So Miss Francis would keep that money there, and we could start buying some police equipment and making things.
Basically, a line item in your city budget.
No.
Well,
no,
that's the whole point.
No.
Is it was completely separate.
Completely
Didn't have
separate.
anything to do with the city.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if you're going to get donations, Governor Wilder said you can't put it in general funds because then you can't touch it because the city's not allowed to.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, if y'all want to use it, buying police equipment and stuff, you got to create a separate fund. So that's what we did.
Okay.
So after that, we got the Galloway Projects Fund going, and we started building the police department. And how we got the police department was there's an old abandoned restaurant in town.
Right.
I went to Mayor Watson. I said, Mayor, lease us this building, this old restaurant over here. We don't have a police department. We were using the mayor's office as the police department for traffic court and all that, 8x8 office.
Right.
He said, okay, I'll do that, but understand, and he gave it to me with a warning. The city can't remodel it. We don't own the property. You're leasing it from me. You're on your own. You have to remodel it yourself.
Again, $1 a year.
$1 a year. So I got some contractors, friends of mine, over there helping. And Dean, pull me that police department file out of there. I had some friends of mine come over and start helping me. And I'm painting hauling trash off and answering calls at the same time. I think at this time I had a grant and was able to hire 3 officers. So, but let me back up just a minute. My first officer, when I took the job, immediately put in the 2-week notice. So to start off with, and that's what I was going to cover in this, but I'll just do it all verbally now to keep from having to read all this. I worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for a year and a half, and on call 24/7. Many times I'd get off at 10, 11 o'clock, whatever time I'd get off, go home. I'd have to get back up and make a call because the sheriff's office would have covered that for me, but back then they didn't. They don't have such an innovative sheriff's office like they do today. Back then, maybe 1 or 2 deputies in the whole county.
Right, in Fayette County.
So, that's right. Yeah. A deputy may be in Moscow, Tennessee, and you know, get a call up there. I'm closer to it than he is. I just get out of bed and go answer it. So while we're working out of this department, we're rebuilding, we're painting, we're remodeling, hauling trash off, and Dean and I had Dean come down and help me because Dean's kind of a computer whiz. So I went to the bank and bought my first computer. I financed it at the bank, and I've got all these pictures and things over here that we don't need to see.
Now, you personally bought it. This is one of those other deals where you personally bought it? And...
I personally bought it myself.
That's it.
That's it.
And Dean,
and while I was there...
You were the administrative assistant? Is that what you...
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I went and bought the computer, financed it through the bank.
Okay. I don't know if anybody can see this, but that's what it is. Okay.
I paid $800 for the air conditioning. Sergeant Major Cantrell paid whatever. What'd you pay for that? Whatever he paid for the heating.
Probably wasn't cheap even then, I'm sure.
And while we were doing that, I'm trying to get money in the projects fund so we can buy some. So I donated another $1,850.
Donation.
So we'd have some money.
Okay. So this is your own money. You're
That's
donating
my own
to
money.
the fund.
That's a donation. You see it on. Well, I can't. I could write my name on it, but
right. Gotcha.
I mean, they just put donation on it and put what it was for.
Okay.
So Miss Francis put that in there. So new patrol units, drug fund. Let me back up a minute. It's been so long. Pardon me, and I apologize. The 3 projects I knew. My hobby was importing, before I started this, was importing police dogs from Europe. We ordered competition dogs, and we went all over the country with competition dogs. So I knew I could have a canine, and all the drug activity in here, we could get the drug fund to start growing.
Right.
So I purchased a canine. Give me that canine picture there. Should be right up front. It was, I don't know. But anyway, I purchased a canine, and everybody in the county, there wasn't a drug dog in the county. Everybody's using our dog.
In all of the county, the whole.
Well, back then, now you're talking, right now, Sheriff Riles has got all that stuff covered now. I mean, he's got drug dogs that, can compete with anybody. Back then, they didn't. And here it is, Dean. I'm sorry. And I mean, this was a service dog. Did everything. Room search, tracking, narcotics, officer protection, it did everything.
Okay.
So my drug fund started to grow. And when we got through, when I left there, after they finally got me out of there, I had bought over $200,000. Didn't have a patrol car, bought my own. When I left there, I had purchased over $200,000 in patrol cars for a town that didn't even have one when I got there. Man, you know, it was a bullpen full of brand new cars.
Right.
So we had all that covered, new patrol units, and then I'd get a phone call from Inspector John Yancey at the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. He's in charge of all emergency services at Shelby County Sheriff's Office. Hurricane Katrina came through, and he was getting his guys ready to go. They were ready to go and respond, the sheriff's office from Shelby County, to Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana. So he calls me and he says, they're telling me to stand down, I can't go.
Yeah, I can't imagine that Shelby County, anytime in the last 40 years, could afford to send people out of state with all the garbage going on there.
So Inspector Yancey calls me and says, Billy, Sheriff Luttrell told me to stand down, I can't go. One of these guys down there was a friend of his. He knew him from policing and schooling and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, he says, I need you to get as many people as you can together. If you can find time, they need supplies. Please help us out. So I got a group of guys. They assigned me to St. Bernard Parish. So we delivered supplies to St. Bernard Parish.
Okay.
All right, and then when we get through with that, we get back and we go back doing our work and stuff, and we're about to get our police department done. And by the way, and at any time later, I'll be glad to send you all these receipts when you find time just to show them without me being here. I bought all the furniture that went in that police department off my Office Max credit card. So I filled the police department up with equipment, with furniture.
Now that was part of the $260,000 that you talked about that you spent altogether?
No, that's out of my pocket. No.
Well, wait a minute. Now the $260,000. I thought you said a few minutes ago the $260,000 was what you spent altogether.
No, that $260,000 was what I was personally responsible for getting donated to the city.
Okay. I got you.
Plus, they're building the courthouse.
Okay.
They're helping me with this firing range. But there's things I've got to have in between that I've just got to do for myself.
Right.
So anyway, I'm in the office one day and I get a call from Chief Bobby Smith from Fayette County Sheriff's Office. Billy, we don't have a training officer in this county. Can you do in-service training for us? You understand about in-service training. You got to do 40 hours a year.
Right.
I said, sure, I'd be glad to, Bobby. So I did in-service training for the Fayette County Sheriff's Office for 3 years, and some other departments attended as well. So I got that. We started doing that every year for them. Then about 4, 5, 6 weeks later, Chief Smith calls me back. Back then, Sheriff Kelly, one of the finest sheriffs you'll ever meet, did not allow his guys to write citations at all. Leave that to the highway patrol, and you guys patrol the county. So now they were seeing, if you're doing a little bit of radar work, you're checking for warrants, DUIs, you got drugs in the car, it kind of, multiplies things. So he says, can you certify the sheriff's office in radar? I said, sure I can, I'll be glad to. So I go up and certify the Fayette County Sheriff's Office in radar.
Okay.
Radar certification, get them all qualified. And they're using my equipment while they're doing, until their equipment comes in. And then they started on the courthouse. Let me see, I want this picture, that one, that one. So I'm in my police department one day and Mickey Jarvis comes to me, a contractor. Said, Billy, I knew him from the car club. Billy, how come y'all don't have a courthouse out here? I said, we don't have the property and we don't have the funds. He said, I'm going to bring some of my contractor friends out here and we're going to talk to you tomorrow. I said, well, I'll be here. So I'm working and now I'm laying carpet. The next morning they come by and they say, we got it set up. We're going to build you a courthouse.
Smallest
That's what it
courthouse
started
I've
with.
ever seen.
That wasn't a courthouse. That was a storage shed.
Right.
You go in and look kind of like a hallway to nowhere.
Now they're tearing it now, and here's the finished product.
Oh, wow. That's not bad.
Show the before and after at the same time.
Okay.
No, before.
Oh, okay. So this is the before and this is the after.
When they got through with that, with the courthouse, they went into City Hall, a little bitty City Hall next door, and they built, about 12 by 12 extended City Hall and built it into the side of the courthouse they just built so the girls would have more room to work. So when they got finished with that, I and you can see it again, I ordered a Ten Commandments monument and set that in. I can do that because the state or the city doesn't own that property. It's leased.
Ah, okay.
So I can put it there. So I ordered the Ten Commandments monument and put it there. So when they finally got finished with the courthouse, see that plaque right there?
Right.
There it is.
Okay. You got the plaque on the building there, and this is the actual plaque, so you can see it a little bit better.
Yeah,
That's everybody that contributed.
Yeah, yeah.
Building was donated to the citizens of Galloway by the following.
Yeah,
Jack Jarvis, Harold Jenkins, Terry Jarvis, and several others. March 2005.
It's 11 contractors got together. When they got finished with the courthouse, Mickey and Joe Furnace came to me and told me they wrote off 160. It was either 160 or $180,000 just on the courthouse, and they wrote off another $30,000 work that they did opening City Hall up and building it into the side of the courthouse for the girls. Right. So that covers the courthouse. I'm trying to do this as fast as I can. So now we've got things pretty well. We've got a courthouse, we got a police department, we got things going on, and all the local residents are excited about it. So I started a reserve department. So we got some qualified residents.
Right. Auxiliary officers.
Put them, reserve officers, put them through I'm a training officer. I put them through in-service training.
Right.
Now, for these projects and on the weekends, you got 2-man units for safety now. You got a certified officer and you got a reserve officer. You got two-man units. So that helped us out there.
Right.
And it made us look better to the community. Yeah. Then I get a call from the city manager from Moscow, Tennessee. I got a bunch of cars now. We've been buying cars now. We're working.
Now, who's buying these new cars? Is that
drug fund?
Drug
not
fund.
Cost the city a dime.
Okay.
$200,000 didn't cost the city $1.
Okay.
That's from work. Then I get a call from the Moscow city manager. Chief Phillips, I need help. What can I don't want to call her now yet. What can I help you with? I've got 2 patrol cars, and both of them, they went through the winter. They didn't do things correctly, didn't
right.
service the vehicles. They both got crack blocks. We've got to have engines put in them. I don't have a patrol car while they're fixing these, or these are being repaired. So I had magnetic Moscow signs, and I placed the magnetic Moscow signs over Galloway PD and sent her 2 police cars. She kept them for a month, I think, 6 weeks, until they got theirs
right.
fixed. And I get them back. Then, here's where part of my trouble starts. I get a call. I didn't get a call. Judge Gallagher comes to my office.
Judge who?
Gallagher.
Gallagher. Okay.
He was Piperton's city judge.
Okay.
I was talking to Mayor Chambers about you. They're amazed at what you're doing up here. And Mayor Chambers wants he and I and Scott Thomas to come meet with you. Would you be willing to build them a police department? You got pull Piperton up. I said, well, let me talk to my mayor and commissioners and, see some kind of way maybe we can arrange that. Excuse me. So I told, after we got approval for that, I had the two mayors get together. Y'all come up with a contract, and what I'll do, I'll have magnetic signs made again. I'll put a couple of patrol cars there. And I've already got with my guys, and I forget what the scheduling was, but
Right.
these guys have agreed to work 4 hours a day after their shift, and you guys pay them. So they agreed to that. So I built them a police department. There's their contract, and please do this.
Okay.
I mean, it's complete.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's there. I mean, I don't think I'd show all of them, but just
I understand, but I'm just telling you,
there's quick.
I mean, I'm telling what happened.
Right. Right. In appreciation for outstanding dedication and support in the creation of the Piperton Police Department, this is presented to Chief Billy Phillips, and this is from Buck Chambers, Mayor of Piperton, 2005. It's kind of a faded copy, but again, that's what it says.
Well, it was dark when I made it. My computer didn't work very well.
Gotcha. Okay.
So then, let me.
So are we to the trouble yet? You said something about.
No, yeah. In the back of that, I'm going to get into that a little later. Just remember Scott Thomas
Okay.
from Piperton, because there's where one of the theft of properties comes from. This contract that I just showed you.
Okay.
All right. Firing range. So next, let me get just one big picture of it. Nobody in the county, there wasn't a firing range in the county. So Mickey Jarvis and myself, the two of us, built this firing range. Excuse me, I'm not just throwing them at you.
It's a nice range.
And, they started using it even before we finished it. I mean, Chief Collins, is he still there? Yeah. Chief Collins and his department used it. So I can't tell you how much money I spent there.
Okay.
But I'm doing a lot of this out of my own pocket. Now I'm making pretty good money there because Governor Wilder, I come get with Mayor Watson. I need, I'm not $7.50 an hour anymore. You told me.
Right.
Okay, so then I don't remember how, this is where my real trouble started. I don't remember how I first crate mower. How I met this car dealer's son, but I think I bought a family vehicle from him, and I think that's where I met him. And anyway, we became friends. So I had a program going. I talked to Brother Ronnie, our pastor, and all this stuff is in the court transcripts. I mean, I could go. I'm just telling you what happened, but because it's fact.
Right.
Brother Ronnie, his youth group needed help. So I went down and I met with Brother Ronnie, and I said, well, let's come up with a plan. I said, I'd been buying them T-shirts every summer, and I'd help pay for some of their camping trips that they'd go on with other churches. And everybody come to me when they want something because, golly, look at this. Brother Ronnie and all them, and I'm glad to help them. So I said, well, let's do this, Brother Ronnie. Is that the first crate motor?
So quick question here. So obviously you're not making, you don't have much money from the $7.50 an hour, although you're making more than $7.50 an hour at this point.
I'm making $52,000 a year now.
Okay, but with the amount you're spending, I mean, is there some other business that you had? I'm just curious. I mean, you spent a lot of money here, and it's.
No, I had a big savings account at that time.
Okay.
Now it's not costing me anything. What I'm spending, I'm not making anything.
Right. Okay. I got you.
But I got a good salary going, and look, things are going good. This is going to be okay,
Right.
and it'll all come back.
Okay.
And that was my thought. So anyway, I get with Brother Ronnie, and I tell you what, let's do. I know how to get these boys involved. I said, I'm gonna go get them. The NHRA Nationals points meet is meeting this weekend at Memphis International Raceway. Let's take 20 or 25 of these kids out there, and they've never seen Top Fuel cars run before. This is something that's just amazing to these project kids. So Brother Ronnie and I take them to the drag races. John Force greets them in his reception tent. And I got with my friend, the car dealer's son. I said, I was talking to Brian over at Arlington Automotive. Anyway, we wound up going to build a little race car for the kids. The car owner's son donated this motor to the youth group.
Okay. Has nothing to do with the police department.
No.
Okay.
The youth group, and the reason they donated them, and I've got the evidence on this too, they were obsolete crate engines.
Right.
They didn't sell.
Yeah.
Now the new is, and there's.
But they could write it off.
Yeah. So.
And the emphasis also on the fact that it doesn't have to do with the police department, it doesn't have to do with any part of Galloway city government.
Okay.
None.
So anyway, Brian's got his little race car there. He said, I got an old junk race car out back. We can put this crate engine in, and when it gets to this motor later on, you're going to hear Mike Donovan say, high-powered racing engine. It's a stock crate motor in a crate. One carburetor. We not doing anything. When the kids do good in school, this was the program. You had to you're talking to project kids now. You got to have C averages. You got to have good attendance in school. And then we'll take you to the racetrack, and Brian will drive the car. And we'll teach y'all how to change oil, how to do this, how to do that. Right. And everybody that brings their grades up to a C, your name will go on the car. Every one of you will put it somewhere. It was a project to get the kids interested in it.
Okay.
Brian takes it out for tune and test. He gets it all put together. Brian even furnished the transmission, didn't have one in it. So I'm telling you all this because all this stuff took years to get going. And motor blows up first time. John Force Racing was furnishing all the oil, all the filters and all that, but when you blow a motor up, now you got to have money.
Right.
Oh, this project's not going to work. So that went away.
Okay.
But, right after it got started, that went away. And I've got all the pastor, I've got all the praise and all that stuff from City Hall and all that, and from the youth group for doing that. So then, Captain Elmer Dozier was my captain. Give me the Dozier family. He died of a massive heart attack on a foot pursuit in the projects.
Wow.
So he had 5 kids, adopted, all of them adopted, had 5 adopted kids. So I and one of my officers, I can't remember which one it was, we would go to Kroger and buy them groceries once a week or once every other week. I can't remember what it was. Well, the eldest son took the family car and left and went to Illinois. I go to Sergeant Major Cantrell. I said, Dean, what are you going to do with that junk Buick you got? He said, that gum thing with transmission went out, and I just went and bought me a new truck. I said, will you give me that car? He said, for what? I said, I want to have it fixed and give it to Brenda Dozier. They don't have a car. He says, sure, get it. So I get Brian from Arlington Automotive, same guy that was helping us with the youth group. He sends a wrecker over, picks up this old Buick, carries it down and puts a transmission in it, tunes the engine up, redoes the brakes, gives me the bill. I pick the car up and take it to Brenda Dozier.
Now that's all you pay.
I'm doing this myself.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I'm doing all this.
Okay.
Of course, Brian's giving me good prices
Right,
because
right.
he's a friend of mine, and he does all my patrol cars, so he's helping me with it, but
Right.
just giving it to me at cheaper prices.
Yeah.
So I get that done, and dadgum, in about, this was Captain Dozier. He left the sheriff's office and came to work for me. So he leaves. Brenda calls me, and I don't know what they were doing for income. I was just furnishing groceries at the time. She's getting evicted. Whew. So I go down in my personal car, pick her and the 4 kids that's left, and I carried them to Country Hearth Inn in Ripley, Tennessee, and I put them up and paid for their rent at that. Wow. Pages and pages of
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's not just one.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of money.
Until they finally
A lot of
got
money.
some of their family in Illinois to come get them. But at least they wasn't on the streets.
Right, right. This looks almost like a month's worth, roughly a month's
Oh,
worth.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And, you know, I think I spent $500, $600, maybe $700, $800, I don't know. But
spent quite a
I'm
bit.
buying groceries at the same time while
Right.
they're there. And this is the one I had to get groceries once a week on, because in the hotel rooms, you know, you got the little.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so I'll get on to what you want me to. Well, I got Medigen. I'm getting so much attention out there. Bob Weddle comes to me. He's a plant manager at Medigen, a medical factory in Galloway, and he says, Bill, you're doing great out here. I love this. I want on the reserve department, and Medigen is going to help Galloway. Here's what we're going to do. You go get a business license, which I don't know if I'm right. I'm going to hire you to, you can come out and help us if we have a problem with a disgruntled employee or something. You can come out and help us with the security on that. And I'm going to pay you, Medigen is going to pay you $200 a month. That helped me pay my car notes and my bank notes and all the stuff that I'd done.
Right.
And we're going to pay the city of Galloway $600 a month. But people don't have no money coming in. The city hall did. Now the plants are starting to help.
Yeah, yeah. Bunch of checks here. Quite a few.
Here's the contract.
Okay. All right.
And the reason this takes so long, Dave, this is what I'm telling you, this stuff's really happening.
Right.
And it's great. It's making a big deal out there. Okay, now, here we get into the second crate motor. This is where it really gets good. My friend is now he wanted on the reserve department since we built one, so of course I'll let him on.
Now,
He
what was his name
definitely-
again? Your friend's
I'm
name
not
again?
going to give his name. The car dealer's son.
Okay, all right.
I don't want to mention the car. They did a good job, and I don't want him to get any bad ever.
Okay, okay.
Everybody knows who it was that was involved anyway.
Okay.
But anyway,
Are we getting to Donovan on this? anytime
yes,
soon?
we're fixing to right now.
Okay, okay.
So anyway, he comes to me one Saturday. He rides with Captain Weddle on Saturdays. Billy, we got one more. I do classic cars. I have my whole life. We got one more of those obsolete motor. Do you want one? I said, I don't know if I can use it or not, because I had a 57 Chevrolet.
Right.
You start putting this kind of, I've got all my stuff, my air conditioning and everything. Well, I don't want to redo it. I said, I don't know. I'd like to look at it and see. I'd like to. He said, if you can't sell it and give the money to them projects, whatever you're doing.
Okay.
I said, okay, so I went and picked the motor up. Sold the motor because I couldn't use it to Benny Green. This is what Dean's going to get into.
Okay.
And
now this was all still personal, though, right? This was.
He gave the engine to me. It was an obsolete crate engine. Now, you're going to listen to Donna. It's a high-performance crate racing motor. It's a stock Chevrolet.
Right.
Excuse me. It's a stock crate motor.
Okay.
So anyway, then we go to indictments. Oh man, you sold property that belonged to the city. The dealership didn't complain. City Hall didn't complain. Who did? Donovan was the complainant.
Okay, Donovan. Make sure everybody understands who Mike Donovan is.
He's the
Go ahead.
he's the assistant attorney general for that area.
Okay. Assistant Attorney General.
No, the Attorney General. Donovan's the Attorney General.
Okay, but the
Now this is the same Mike Donovan
Yes.
who's now working at the
Yes.
state AG's office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So, I can get into. Do you want me to? You want to listen to Jason? Do you want to come in anytime here?
Billy, I'm listening to what you're saying.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna get into these false indictments, and so you can come in on that and maybe tell your story and get out of here, unless you want to hang out with us.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Let me go to the false indictment. As you've done, that's what got my attention. Where's my? This is Donovan. I've got tons of this stuff. Okay. Remember the radar gun I was talking to you about?
Right.
That Scott Thomas.
They gave you a radar gun.
Wait a minute. I built a police department for Piperton Police Department.
Right.
I've already been indicted, arrested,
For.
theft of the motor, and official misconduct.
Okay, and that's basically an add-on charge. The official misconduct
That's
is
the first. Yeah, that's a catch-all. They're
Right,
going to do that because they can.
Right.
And excuse me. So I built a police department for Piperton. There's a city contract. I showed that to you
Right,
between the
right.
two cities.
Right.
They show up in my office one day. Sergeant Major Cantrell's over at his office doing his stuff. Do I ever shut my doors, Dean? They come into my office, Mayor Chambers, Scott Thomas, and Carl Hendricks, their chief of police. Chief, this is Scott Thomas. I bought you this radar gun. Appreciation for look what you did for us.
they shut the door.
They shut the door.
Yeah, they went in the village and they shut the door.
Yeah. See, that's what I was going to get to. Is my door ever shut? No. They shut the door. Brought you a radar gun. An appreciation for all the work you did for us getting us started.
Right.
I said, man, every police officer loves to have their own equipment
Right.
without sharing it, or putting it on whoever's got it. Oh, they got it today. You can't use it.
Right.
Everybody, police officer. I said, sure. I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, we come over for another reason. This is Mayor Chambers. I said, yeah, what is that? We want you to break that contract. They're greedy now. They're making a lot of money.
Okay, break which contract now?
The one I told you with Piperton and Galloway.
Okay.
Well, I had the two mayors get together and make this contract.
Right.
I just showed it to you.
Right.
Okay. So they're making a lot of money now. And what we were doing, the contract, if you go back and read it, we're splitting the DUIs. I'm doing all the work, getting you started. You're using all our equipment. All our guys are working. We'll split the DUIs, the drug funds, the traffic and all that. We'll just split it 50-50 for 3 months.
Okay.
Then you guys, you'll be rolling good. So they come in, like I said, now they close the door, and Mayor Chambers says, no, Scott Thomas, excuse me, that's not the only reason we came. I said, what's that? We want you to void this contract. I said, Scott, I can't void that. I don't have the authority to do that, and do you realize you're breaking the sunshine law? This came up in court now. This is all. Do you know you're breaking the sunshine law by even coming here and asking me to do this? This is before I'm arrested now.
Right.
They're gonna come and get this stuff, see. So he says, well, you can do it. I said, no, I can't. That's between the two mayors. I can't do that.
Right.
They get mad. You can do whatever you want to. I said, no, I can't. Okay, so they're mad now. I mean, they really got angry over this. I'm not doing that. They stand up to leave, and I tell Scott, I said, Scott, take your radar gun with you since it's not a gift for you. I know why you're getting here.
Right.
No, I bought it for you. You keep it. I said, okay. So after I'm arrested on the motor jobs, then General Donovan sends the.
Now, wasn't there an interaction with you and Donovan before this in reference to an election?
Yeah, he wanted his support for election. Gladys Crane backed him in an election. I'm fixing to get into that too in a little while. And she's a big property owner out in Fayette County. And I don't care who's supporting him. I can't support him because I can't remember the guy's name. He was a JAG officer, and he was the assistant AG while I was the chief of police. And I had already committed to support him and given him a little $250 check to add to it. So I can't support you.
Right.
Oh, he's pissed. Excuse me. He's not happy. And I don't care about Gladys Crane. I don't know anything about Gladys Crane other than she's a big donor for politicians. And I said, it doesn't I can't help that. I don't know anything about Gladys Crane.
Right.
So I didn't see, this is not a conversation between he and I. I know about Gladys Crane. I'll show you all the paperwork on this. And anyway, but what I'm getting to now is, so now he sends the comptroller's office. Donovan's after me. Let me back up one. Mike Neal, my attorney, when these first indictments came out, Mike Neal goes to Donovan's office to talk to Mike Donovan. When he leaves Donovan's office, he calls me on the phone. I'm in the office. What's going on? I said, what are you talking about? I just left Donovan's office. This guy hates you with a passion. He said, what's going on with that? I said, Mike, I don't even really know the guy. We wouldn't support him in his election. That's the only thing I can tell you, because I don't know the guy.
Right.
Well, he hates you with a passion. And then, I'm going to get to you in just 1 second, Jason. Then he sends the comptroller's office out and they start digging.
Right.
They after me. That's why Donovan sent the comptroller's office out there. I'm a crook. Boy, look at this crook here. So, okay, so they're digging around and they come up with theft of a radar gun, and I'm issuing police weapons without a court order. I'm issuing police officers.
Seized weapons.
I'm issuing police officers seized weapons without a court order. I knew that was a lie right away, because I've never issued one of my officers a gun. Each officer, he and her, carried their weapon of choice. Not all cops like Smith Wessons. Not all cops like Colts. I mean, right. Each one's. Furnish your own weapon. I don't do weapons because we didn't have the money to do it anyway.
Right.
So I knew that was a lie. So he gets to now we come to the radar gun. State of Tennessee, first indictment. Without effective consent of the city of Galloway and Scott Thomas, I stole radar gun from Scott Thomas.
So was that a break-in or what?
My point. Okay, well, this gets better. So then I've already been arrested. I've already made bond. I've already didn't hire another attorney. I paid Mike more money to do, I'm deep into this now with attorney fees and all this stuff. So, oh my God, he's issuing confiscated weapons. That's where Jason comes in. What's that serial number right there?
306-00510.
What's that one?
306-00, okay, I'm sorry, 306-00510.
Who is that?
Chief Freddie J. Maxey, Rossville Police Department. Chief Billy Williams. Without witness Michael Draper.
Michael Draper.
Okay.
I didn't seize them weapons.
Right.
They're in Jason now. They're in Jason's, and he's going to tell you all about his evidence room. So anyway, that's the reason I knew that's a lie, because I never did that in the beginning. Whose name's on there? Michael Donovan.
Okay.
So now we get to the, oh God, here they are. Okay, we already looked at that. Here we go. When we get to court, Mike Donovan and this theft of radar gun is the one I stole from City of Galloway and Scott Thomas.
Right.
Okay, my attorney wants the receipt. I want the original receipt. You got to share the information. I mean, it's just,
right.
If you got it, I got to have it.
Right.
So they send the invoice over, and I want you to, who is that?
ComServe.
Who is that sold to?
James Scott Thomas, Piperton Police Department.
What is that?
State of Tennessee Notary Public, Pamela S. Walker.
That's right.
Certified copy.
What date is that?
December 5th, 05.
Okay. Dean Cantrell gets this, and ComServe has set up $200,000 worth of cars for me.
Right.
I know what a ComServe invoice looks like, so does he. He sees every one of them. Dean Cantrell looks at that and said, that's a computer-generated invoice.
Yeah.
I said, no, it's not. He said, yes, it is. I said, okay. So my attorney subpoenas the original.
Right.
In the meantime, Chief Collins went to ComServe to get the original invoice on this, and they told Jason Donovan said he was not to have anything.
Really?
He can tell you about that. And by the way, if it's going to be a lot of trouble, the $800 I sold the radar gun to the city for went in Galloway Project Fund. It didn't go in my pocket. I'm trying to get stuff done.
Right.
So, okay, if it's a problem and
so you sold the radar gun to Galloway, and then
she put the money in the Galloway Projects Fund. Okay. When Donovan comes up with this, I go over and write her a check. So just if they say I stole it, here's your money back. Just put it. Where'd it go?
For radar. Okay. All right.
So I give her a check, and it went into that wasn't the drug fund. Anyway, so Sergeant Major Cantrell said that ain't a ComServe invoice. That's a computer-generated invoice, complete with a notary seal and their Liz McCommon, their city recorder.
Okay. Now, just to clarify something, just so everybody knows, you're a retired Sergeant Major from Marine Corps, right? Yeah. Okay. He's constantly referring to you as that. I just want everybody to understand that you're retired Sergeant Major. Okay.
So Dean says to me, "Why?" I said, "Wow, I can't. You're right. That's not." My attorney subpoenas the original. They had to furnish it, and I got a court order on it. Liz McCommon, the same lady that bogus this one up, and whoever that notary is ought to be in prison because that's a bogus deal.
Yeah.
So they bring the original invoice in. They take a court-ordered invoice, and who bought it? Oh, where's that check, Dean? Anyway, I had the check. The check was from Piperton Police Department.
Right.
You got it? Here's the original invoice, court-ordered.
Okay.
Before they bring it to court, this is the same lady that bogus the other one up,
Right.
marks through Piperton Police Department and adds Scott Thomas' name to it.
Oh, wow.
Here it is, Billy.
There's the check. Give me that out of there, Dean.
Sale of radar for Scott Thompson. Okay.
That's the Piperton Police Department bought the radar gun. He didn't buy it at all.
Okay.
Okay, so now
So how wait a minute, how can he give you something he didn't buy?
well, we ain't got there yet. We ain't got there yet. So, and what does it say, right? Work performed? They bogus the whole original up before they turned it over to the courts.
And nobody called him on this?
They got caught, we caught Scott Thomas on the stand, got caught perjuring himself. You're excused.
What did he say? That
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I bought it.
He thought he bought
That's
it?
exactly what he said on the witness stand. Oh,
I would
guys,
think you
I'm
would get a
sorry.
few years for
I'm
thinking you
sorry,
bought
I
it.
thought this guy just got arrested on me. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. No, what he said on the witness stand when Mike Neal got to, I'm sorry, I thought I bought it. So,
How do you
here we
think
go.
you bought a
Hang on a
radar
minute,
gun?
Billy, let me cover something. real
Okay.
quick. Now, at this point, now they kind of got another problem. And they had to know at this point that Piperton had bought the radar gun.
Right.
And the city charter, if they're going to give city property away to somebody,
Right.
they have to go into, put it in minutes, or they have to go into the commission meeting,
Right.
bring it up, and then, give people time to talk about it, and then the next commission, they can approve it or not
Right,
approve it or
right.
whatever. Well, I went over and I pulled all the minutes and everything for the commission meetings that would have been relevant. Absolutely no mention of it. In other words, that Mayor Gallagher and Scott Thomas, whether they claim they gave it to Billy or they claim they gave it to the city of Galloway, they gave it illegally.
Right. Right. Yeah.
That's why now I've got to change. Oh boy, I got to change this because Dean's over digging in their minutes. Look at this. He went over and searched it all out.
Yeah.
And there's no mention of it in the minutes.
No, they can't get. They're trying to.
Never brought up and approved. Never even mentioned.
They're trying to bring me a fancy radar gun. Boy, thank you so much. I appreciate you doing it. Would you break that contract for us? I can't do that. The way they went. And then they bogus up all this stuff up.
So, okay, we already talked about the serial numbers. And now, was this the first trial or the second trial?
This is the second trial.
Okay, just to clarify, the first trial, what were you charged with?
Hung jury, I was charged with theft of $1,000 to $10,000.
Okay, and what was
The motor
the motor?
and official misconduct.
Okay, so then that one, that was a hung jury.
Yeah.
Okay, then the next case, the second case, was
That's
this.
what we're doing.
This was the second trial.
All
Okay.
right, now watch this. Before Now, this gets better now. It even gets better. Before my first trial came up, I mean, after my hung jury,
Right.
I'm scheduled to retry, and I got the dates in here to show you.
Right.
Donovan comes up with these false indictments just before my upcoming trial and gets me all over the news media. I got all the news stuff here.
Right.
You ain't gonna get a fair trial now.
Right.
Man, and what the news articles say is, Chief of Police arrested again for theft.
Right.
Going to trial, I'm reading the newspaper articles.
Yeah.
I go to court, and you can really never tell what a jury's gonna do, but I knew what they was gonna be.
Right.
They went to first trial, see, they saw all their mistakes.
Yeah.
When they retried it, that's a completely different trial now.
Right.
They didn't do this, it all changed, it was different. Okay, what's that say?
Criminal court, 13. Official misconduct, not guilty. This is the second trial, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
This is the one Donovan bogus up.
Okay. Theft of property, 500 to 1,000. Dismissed.
Right,
Okay.
turn page.
All right. And this is unlawful issuance of firearm without a court order. Okay, dismissed. Okay, now is that an additional charge in the
Yeah,
second
it's
trial?
4 of them. Yeah, 4 indictments.
Okay, I thought there was 3. Okay.
No, 4 of them.
Unlawful issuance of firearm without a court order, and it was dismissed. Okay. Let's see, this is what year is this? This is July of 07.
Right.
Okay.
All right. There's a letter Chief Collins got from TBI. Read that.
Okay. I'm going to read this out loud so everybody can hear
That's
it.
the radar gun I was charged for stealing.
Right. And this is from Chief Collins, who's going to join us here in just a second. Galloway Police Department. He'd taken over for Billy by this time. Reference Genesis handheld radar gun. Dear Chief Collins, why is it? Okay. Dear Chief Collins, this is to inform you that the Genesis handheld radar gun used as evidence in Mr. Billy Phillips' case needs to be picked up immediately. As you already know, Mr. Billy Phillips was acquitted of all charges regarding this case. The radar must be picked up before February 15th, 2008. Otherwise, it will be destroyed on February 15th. Okay, the radar must be picked up from this office, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 6325 Haley Road, Memphis, Tennessee. Call this number to make an appointment. If you have questions, feel free to contact this office. Special Agent David Harmon, TBI.
Remember the name TBI Agent David Harmon when you talk to Chief Collins.
Right.
Can you go on that one now, Chief, or you want him to explain this?
No, I understand that.
No, oh, no, you don't.
So I appreciate you guys having me. Guys, it's been a really long time, and this situation has changed me for quite a while, and it was hard to walk away from something that I dearly love to do and serve in service of those two small communities. But in this situation, I saw an injustice that I just couldn't face, and then the fear that it could come back to me and me fall into the same circumstances. When I was approached, I was the city of town of Mason in a different county. I was approached by my mayor to go down and speak to the mayor at the city of Galloway to possibly help them reestablish their police department when Billy got indicted. I agreed to do that, and so I ended up taking the appointment for the city of Galloway. And when I first got there, of course, I brought all of my policies and procedures that I established in the town of Mason. I went extensively through executive law enforcement schooling, to run a small agency. Just I mean, I really poured everything I had into our agencies both. The city of Galloway supported us tremendously in the town of Mason and other agencies for that matter. And I had a private prison in my jurisdiction that held federal inmates, and they helped us with any riots that happened or any disturbances that happened. But the biggest point here is I was approached after Billy had been indicted and he was arrested, and it was before one of his trials. It was before his second trial. I was approached by TBI agent David Harmon at my office in Galloway. He came in my office and sat down. Now I consider David to be a friend. I've worked with the TBI on a lot of cases, all the way from the drug narcotic units to criminal cases. And when he sat down, he said, "Chief, I need to talk to you about a gun that was confiscated and stolen from your evidence room." I said, "Well, David, there's no way that there's a gun missing from my evidence room because I was just appointed and I was actually a certified evidence custodian, and I literally went through the schooling and became an evidence custodian because on a small agency you wear a lot of hats. You have to do a lot of things." So I took all of the knowledge from that school and I put in alarm systems, I put in new locks, I put in new doors, I put filing systems into the place, so that I put evidence logs in. And what nobody knows is that I had a master log copy of that original evidence room when I inventoried it with someone else, with another officer. That was never exposed to anybody. No one knew about it. It was in my computer and in my possession. I went to that evidence log and asked David for the information on the firearm. He provided that information to me, and I said, "Well, come with me." Him and I went straight to the evidence room. I opened it up. I turned the alarm off, and I looked I signed into the room, and I went straight to the bin where that gun was supposed to be at, and it was there. Now, this is after David Harmon from TBI was given a bunch of files, according to him, at a grand jury in Fayette County, and he testified that that gun was stolen and was not in my possession. So I pulled the gun out of the evidence room, I signed it out, I took it back to my office with a transmittal form. David sat down in the chair across from me, and I said, "Well, David, you've got a problem." He said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "David, how did you testify before a grand jury on a case you have never investigated yet?" And he said, "Well, I was handed these case files by General Donovan, and he asked me to testify to the grand jury for these cases. And one of those cases happened to be that gun they had already indicted Billy on." And I said, "Well, you certainly got a problem now because the gun's not missing. And according to my log, that gun is in the original batch that I logged into my evidence room." Yep. And he turned 3 shades of white and gray. And I said, "David, why would you go on the stand and testify to something that you had no knowledge of? You weren't the investigating officer. Why would you do that? Why would you put your career in someone else's hands?" And he said, "Jason, I don't know. I'm going to have to get up. I'll have to get back to you." And I said, no, David, you're not going to get back to me. Sign this. You're taking the gun with you. He said, no, I don't want to take the gun with me. I said, no, David, you don't have a choice now. I've already signed it out of my evidence room. Chain of custody says you will sign for this gun. You will take it with you. And he signed for the gun, and I never saw that gun again.
Wow.
He said, I'm going to have to go back and talk to Jack Van Hoosier, what was the agent, special agent in charge. That was his boss. And he was going to have to talk to General Donovan about this case. And when court reconvened, you see the end result of that case. Well, you just read it to the public. It said that case was dismissed against Billy.
Right.
That's because it was never investigated. It was never should have been before a grand jury before the investigation was done. And this isn't the first time this has happened. I was actually in the town of Mason, and I had another TBI agent come to me and accused me of well, he said, I have a problem. I have a case that I've got. I said, okay, what's the case? He said, well, you're one of your officers is accused of stealing a knife, a World War II medallion knife. I said, okay, well, what's the officer's name? He said, well, Chief, it's you. I said, me? He said, yeah. He said, well, I'm here to talk to you about it. I said, okay, Dave. I said, okay, talk to me about it. And he goes, okay. So he goes into the case. I go into my records management system. I literally pull that records management system out. I go to the evidence room, which is the same system I had set up in Galloway, and cameras, everything, and pulled an old busted shafted knife out of it, rusted, and that's what they accused me of stealing. And again, they didn't want to take. They were like, no, we don't. We see it. We don't need to take it. No, you're. I signed it out of the evidence room. You're going to take this knife. So it befuddles me that during a trial that Billy was already indicted for, he was already in the public's eye about, and you're going to change the complexity of the trial when you know that you don't have the evidence after you've already sworn in front of a grand jury you had the evidence. Because in front of a grand jury, at least in the state of Tennessee, when I was serving, you have to have probable cause to make an arrest.
Right.
And then you have to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt to convict someone, and they couldn't get it with that gun because there's no evidence supporting that. Well, when I was in the courtroom, because I was subpoenaed by the prosecution to testify, I was approached by Assistant District Attorney Terry Dicus, who worked for General Donovan and was prosecuting Billy on this trial. He told me that you should have never went against Mr. General Donovan. You should have supported the prosecution in this. You're going to regret this.
Yep.
You're going to regret your decision.
Yep.
And I said, well, Terry, I can't support something that's not true. I'm not a perfect guy, but I can certainly tell you that I'm not going to lie for anybody, and I'm not going to cross the line for anybody. Billy, I honestly never knew anything about any of these indictments until after the indictments were already unsealed and Billy was arrested. We never talked about it, and I think at one time we were skirting about it and talking the edges of it, and I flat told Billy, do not talk to me about this case, because if you talk to me about it,
Yep.
I'm going to have to testify against you in court.
Right.
But don't talk to me about your case. Talk to your attorney.
Yep.
Because there's no expectation of privacy with me. And we never talked about it, but I never believed that the system could be turned this way. I just never had. If you're going to arrest somebody, you need to do it the right way.
Right.
You need to get all the evidence. You need to make sure the evidence is solid, and you need to make sure that you're doing the right things.
So the prosecution had you as a witness, but you never took the stand.
No, I was actually told by Assistant District Attorney Terry Dicus that he never intended to use me, but what it did, I believe, was to stop me from being subpoenaed by the defense to testify about this gun part. And so in order for me not to be able to testify about this gun part, they dismissed the charge.
Okay. Now, you had some other, I guess, ramifications of this in reference to you were, I guess, at school, at an FBI-sponsored school or something that at the last minute you got yanked out of. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I filed when I tell you and the public, this really is weighed heavy on my heart. Even today, it breaks my heart because I went to extensive lengths to make sure that we were doing the correct things in Mason and in Galloway, and I was in Mason. And I was accepted to the FBI National Academy, which is one of the most prestigious academies and schools that you can go to in the United States as a law enforcement executive or an upcoming law enforcement executive. I had already passed the background check from the Department of Justice. I had already passed the FBI's background check. And at that point, apparently somehow General Donovan found out about it, and he contacted the FBI agent in the recruiting office that does the approvals. I even had my class schedule. That's how far out I was in the process. I had already selected my classes.
Wow.
And this would have went towards my degree because it's college credits, and I was working towards that degree by going to this class plus gaining knowledge that would help my community. And it doesn't cost our city anything to send me, not a dime for the citizens. And he contacted that agent and said that I was under the suspicion of an investigation, never released the data of the investigation to that agent. And to this day, no one can tell me what I was under investigation for.
And you know that for a fact that somebody told you, hey, Attorney Donovan contacted us and told us you were under suspicion? Or is this just speculation? I'm just curious.
No, the FBI agent himself that is in charge of the recruiting for the class called me and told me that I had been pulled from the class specifically because they had received information from General Donovan that I was under investigation. I said, well, what am I under investigation for? And he said, well, we can't really have you in the class and get you be indicted or arrested. It would be embarrassing for the FBI. I said, I understand that, but what am I being investigated for? He said, you're going to have to reach out to the General Donovan's office for that. So I hired an attorney, and she went to General Donovan's office with me, and he basically, everything under the sun, called me everything under the sun, but never, ever brought me under a criminal indictment. Ever.
Never even mentioned a possible charge.
Never mentioned the charge. Never mentioned to my attorney, Leslie. Even in private conference, I said, let me step out of the room. You guys can talk privately. Never, he never would mention anything. He never mentioned nothing.
Ask him about Donovan revoking his police powers.
Oh, let's talk about when your police powers were revoked by Donovan. That's another.
So
That's a very hard one to believe that would actually happen. I mean, I believe you. I'm just saying it's insane that they would do something like that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So here's how it works in the state of Tennessee, and I don't know if the public's understanding about how much power a district attorney general has in the state of Tennessee. They're elected for eight-year terms, which is way too long for a district attorney to be in office. When you have a sheriff that only has to get elected every 4 years, some elected officials 2 years, they get 8 years. And they have the discretion to charge or not charge any crime that you bring to them in a criminal complaint. They have the ultimate say. Even though you may have the smoking gun in a murder case, you have the drugs, you have a video, you have a DUI, you have the field sobriety tests. I was a field sobriety test instructor. I taught thousands of police officers on how to do field sobriety in the state of Tennessee. I'm a court certified expert in field sobriety and alcohol related drug accidents and incidents. And I couldn't even bring one of those cases before him. Every case I brought before him, he said, nope, I'm not going to prosecute it. So then I had to turn to the Fayette County Sheriff's Department, and Sheriff Bobby Riles came to my office and said, okay, I've been directed by General Donovan to take over your agency, and you're going to have all of your arrests or encounters have to go through our agency, and you're going to come to our agency. If you have a call, one of my deputies will have to make the arrest, and your officer will have to sign a sworn affidavit stating of what they saw. So literally stripped our agency of any possible way to do our jobs, which is really a endangerment for my officers.
Right. Wow.
So, and this got pretty extreme, and all this whole time, it really was a lot of political pressure that was bearing down on me, all because I never wavered on the truth. And guys, that was back in 2000 whatever, and this is 2025, and it still weighs heavy on my heart.
So how long were you in that situation in terms of, okay, your guys can't arrest anybody, you have to call the counties?
That was almost immediately after Billy's conviction. It was immediate.
Oh, wow. And lasted until, I guess, until you left?
Until I retired, yes. I filed my paperwork to retire with the state of Tennessee Peace Officers Commission, and then I took some leave, and while I was on leave, I just could not go back.
Right. Wow.
And the other point is, like, if I was under such scrutiny, when I left the agency and I left the police department, I took a job as a Department of State contractor overseas in Afghanistan. I served in Afghanistan from 2008 to 2014. I worked under the Department of State, and I worked under the Department of Defense, because the Department of Defense took the battle theater over in 2011. Yep. So I had to shift my clearance. Guys, I held a top secret clearance and a secret clearance in both agencies. So how is it that the FBI can go and the Department of Homeland Security can go and look into my background? They contacted my neighbors. They contacted people when they did it, because I got transcripts and calls from those people. And when I left, I was blown up in Afghanistan with a car bomb in 2014, right outside of one of our prisons that we were building for the Afghans. And I was the deputy director of that program. So I'm not quite sure what scrutiny any of this could go. And then before I left, I hate to go backwards, but before I left, I filed a complaint.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I filed a complaint with the Tennessee Bar Association. You asked me when it really got heated, and that's kind of when everything got heated. I filed that complaint. It outlaid all of the evidence I had, and I provided documents to the Bar Association because there was nobody else to turn to, and they laughed me away.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, I know for a fact you would not have been able to get a clearance to go over there if there was anything on your record, especially with the State Department and whatever other federal agencies. If there would have been any there, they would have found it, and you certainly wouldn't have been allowed to serve in those positions. And so, as you said, you made a complaint to the Board of Professional Responsibility, and they just ignored it, laughed at you, and so eventually you were pretty much driven out of your job. I want to clarify something, though. So Billy, your final trial,
Yeah.
and you were found guilty of
Theft of the engine.
Of the engine that
And-
we've already
and-
talked about,
And official misconduct.
which is a add-on charge. Okay,
And
that's
the judge sentenced me, 5 to 10,000 is what I was convicted. Judge sentenced me to 3 weekends.
so you did 3 weekends in jail,
Yeah.
but you lost your post certification,
Oh, yeah.
which
None of
is
us thought of
not to
that.
mention all the money you had to spend and
That's
your
right.
reputation and all that.
That's right.
So okay, and then that's you've had no recourse in the last since that time frame.
I was going to work for another 15 years.
Right.
Because I had done such a great job. I don't care what everybody that knew what was going on out there, from Jason Collins, even after he took it over from me, Jason was just taking right up where I left off,
Right.
and just polishing everything. And I'm gonna say this with Jason right there, that's the finest young chief of police. I really admired Jason. And then Donovan, in his complaint, in his answer to Chief Collins' complaint to the Board of Professional Responsibilities, that's Chief Phillips was his mentor, and he worked for Chief. Jason Collins never worked for me, and Jason Collins and I were friends, and just close by chiefs of police in different departments. That's Jason and I never went to dinner. We had lunch maybe a time or two.
Right.
He's in his department. I'm not his mentor.
Yeah.
Jason don't need a mentor. He knew things. I wasn't proud of him. I was just after I was gone, this was my mind.
Right.
I thought all this work I've done, at least now, it's in capable hands.
Right.
So I mean that's where I had to leave it.
So you don't have any recourse, either one of you. I mean,
No.
the only recourse you've already tried, and you pretty much had the door shut in your face. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Can we
sir.
go a little bit farther on that for you?
Sure.
They came up with a 2020 felony expungement program in
Right.
Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, boy, I can get my record expunged. That's better than anything. So I go to Leslie Ballin, one of our local attorneys, and I said, Leslie, and I took him the program up there, 2020 felony expungement program.
Right.
What do you charge me to go in and clean my record up? He looks at it and he says, Billy, they left out official misconduct. This gets better. The only thing you can do is go to get a governor's pardon. I said, okay, I'll try that. So I filled out all the paperwork. That goes before the parole board. Not that you're a prisoner or been in
Right.
prison,
Gotcha.
but you have to go to the parole board
Yeah.
to get to the governor. So I said, okay. So I sent them the same file I sent you.
Right.
In about 30 days, I get a call from an officer, Stafford, working one of the officers up there, and she calls me and says, I just checking to make sure all your background stuff is all the same. She said, I've looked over your report. If anybody deserves a pardon, it would be you. I've never seen anything like this. And she says, you'll be hearing from the governor's office in a couple of weeks.
Right.
This is I'm saying this from my part, what I know from Fayette County and from up there.
Right.
There's a person on that board that's a friend of Donovan's.
Ah, okay.
So I get a letter, I get this,
And by the way, Donovan now works in the state AG's office.
oh yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
But anyway, I get a letter, she says in a couple of weeks, you're gonna hear from the governor's office, governor's secretary. I said, oh, that's great, and I told my wife that. A week later, I got a letter, your pardon has been declined, you don't fit the governor's criteria. Guess what? Nobody's got to tell me what happened. I know what happened on that.
Yeah.
I mean, how one guy can, it just goes back to what my attorney told me. Man, what is going on out there? I just talked to this guy. He hates you with a passion. And that hate for me turned right into Chief Collins.
Yeah. And like you said, 8 years is a long time. And that guy has obviously got a lot of power.
Yeah, he's one of the most powerful positions. These attorney generals in those counties are the most powerful position, and they are the lead law enforcement agent in the counties, and they have all the discretion for you to get to a court and try your case, all of it, 100%.
Wow. That's scary.
Oh yeah, Jason, tell them why you quit. I'm gonna remind you of what you told me. Let me put it that way. After you'd already left, you called me. You didn't really tell me when you had left, but because I was already out of there, and I remember you telling me if I hadn't got out of there, he was going to do the same thing to me that he did to you.
Well, yeah, the biggest thing is that impending fear that if he could have taken a case to a grand jury that he had never investigated or had the TBI, he had sole control over the TBI. I don't know if your watchers know that, but those attorney generals have the sole control over TBI, that they can tell them what cases to investigate and what cases not to investigate. They file a criminal complaint. It's a phone call to that special agent in charge, and they can investigate anything the DA's office tells them to do. That's more of the power that they have over the lead investigative agency of the state of Tennessee.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't know that. I did not know that at all. Well, I mean, that's an amazing story. Dean, you have something?
Yeah, well, basically it's all been covered except for a couple of things that, that's one of the main reasons that, that I'm interested in participating in this is, you had the false indictment on the guns.
Right.
Okay. And that, that got out in the news, just kind of a review. You had the radar gun.
Right.
And Scott Thomas just flat out lied on that.
Right.
You had the first trial on the engine and the second trial on the engine, you had a Mr. Green testifying there. In the first one, he indicated that he went to buy the engine, and Billy Phillips told him he wanted to pay with a check, and Billy Phillips said, "No, I'll only take cash." And I had to go back. I had to leave, go back to the bank, get cash, and bring it back to Billy Phillips. It was a flat-out lie, and that was easy to prove. Billy pulled it up on his bank account, and there was the check.
Right.
All right, but in the second, now again, that's a
And
flat-out lie.
nothing happened to these guys for lying. Nothing ever happened to them.
He had to imagine a trip all the way back to the bank to get $5,700 cash and come back? I don't think so.
Right.
Second trial, he changes that. Okay, instead of having to go get the cash, now he recalls that Billy wanted cash, but he said he would only take a check or he would only pay with a check. So Billy finally relented and took the check. And then and the first time he said that when asked, he said he picked the engine up somewhere in Fayette County, but he couldn't remember where. In the second trial, all he said for location was somewhere off Stewart Street.
And the judges never asked for a little more clarification during the trial?
No. And the thing on that street,
Yeah. Jurisdiction, never made
yeah,
it.
yeah, is what's your guy's name? I forget it.
The motor was picked up in Shelby County.
Yeah, but what is his name?
Yeah, the motor was delivered. I took it to my house, and I took it from there to Sam Toon's house.
Yeah, see, now, he remembered, this time he remembered the guy's name, Sam Toon.
Right.
But the street address, or this business about not saying which county, well, the county happened to be Shelby County,
Right.
Never got
in
into
Arlington,
Fayette County.
Tennessee, and that engine never even came in
To his
to Fayette
jurisdiction.
County.
Wow.
You know, and
He prosecutes the
and
case.
Billy pointed out, Billy pointed out that the car dealership never filed a complaint. Galloway, the city of Galloway never filed a complaint of theft regarding that engine.
Yeah, yeah.
And think about it, if
Normally you
if
have
you
to
go
have a complaint
someplace-
filed before you have
if you
action
go
like that.
someplace and you supposedly lie to them and say, I'm getting these engines for so-and-so.
Right.
All right, that's a flat-out lie.
Yeah.
And they give you the engines.
Yeah.
Who did you steal the engines from?
Right. That's, yeah.
You stole it from the dealership.
Yeah.
So any way you cut it or slice it, he didn't steal anything in Fayette County.
So maybe maybe Louisiana doesn't have anything on Tennessee as far as corruption goes? Just curious. I'm just throwing that out there. Hey guys, I appreciate it. I mean, it's a sad case, and I don't guess there's anything that can be done about it. But at least
Well, the governor could straighten something out like this, but
that would require a spine. So forget that with our governor.
that's my point.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. If you're waiting on Bill Lee to do the right thing, you'll be waiting for a while.
That's my point.
Green was never charged with perjury.
Right.
Scott Thomas was never charged with perjury.
Yeah.
And I can maybe see why on Green.
But not Scott Thomas. Right.
Yeah, and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
How is it they never bothered, to have small enough diligence, certainly not due diligence,
Right.
but diligence to look further into this stuff before they
Yeah.
decided to get
Yeah.
indictments.
Well, the whole deal with the
Because they
gun.
were
That's
shooting
that.
for 'em anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
well, it goes a little deeper than that too. It was out of statute of limitations,
Right.
and Jack Van Hoosier says I wouldn't accept a check. So that told I got it all here. You don't have time for me
Right.
to dig it up. That told the statute, kept it open till we found it out, and then it comes up. Oh, he's got a check. Dang.
Right.
I thought he wouldn't accept a check. The indictment should have went away, even though it wasn't in Dunlop's jurisdiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it's just.
Well, I want to go around the horn here real quick. Jason, anything you want to add?
No, I appreciate the time that you guys spent and giving me the opportunity to get this off my chest. It really helps, and I appreciate it. I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on and appreciate you taking the time. And sorry it happened, and hope things are better for you now there wherever you're at. And
Thank you, Jason.
I'll be in touch with you because I got something I want to talk to you about later.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Last call. What do you have?
Well, I just, you know, I cannot believe, I was a police officer, I was chief of police for almost 10 years. And I've worked with a lot of DAs. I went to a small town that nobody had any respect for. We tried to build it up. And then when we get things going, it's hard for me to believe that what I've been hearing is really true. You know, every now and then you come across something like this. Right. And this guy is going to train the newly elected DAs.
Apparently. Dean, anything?
You know, as I mentioned about those two not being charged with perjury, in the second trial, when the president of the car company gave his testimony, he talked about up front about Billy asking for an engine for his 57 Chevrolet. All right, and what have you. And then further down, he said something about, he says, I'll give the engine to Galloway and y'all can do whatever you want.
That's what he said.
Right. But the money, you know, in the end, when the engine was sold, the money was put into that project.
Right.
And when you're looking at a crime, there's also a thing called intent.
Right. Right.
You know, so where was the intent to deprive anybody of anything? He certainly wasn't trying to profit from it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, hey,
But
thank you
that
both.
could be all that lenient to people committing perjury,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not to a guy who did all this stuff.
Yeah. Yours was a political sin, so you know they're going to get you for those. So, well, hey, I appreciate all three of you coming on and telling your story, and I just think it's tragic. I think it's sad that these kind of things can happen. I want to thank the audience for taking the time to watch our program today. Please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as well as the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We truly appreciate your support, so please subscribe and listen. Check out our radio podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and other platforms as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter at our website, tninformer.com. Find and follow us on Facebook and X. Tonight, 5:30 p.m. Central, the John Birch Society will host a talk titled Nullification, Our Duty to Interpose at the Peaks of Hope in Crossville, Tennessee. All are welcome. You do not have to be a JBS member to attend, and there is no need to register in advance. Constitutional Sheriff's Training online every Thursday in July at 7 p.m. Central. Know what your sheriff should know. Sign up at events.mamacat.org/constitutional-sheriffs.training for citizens. Hope you'll join us again next week. That's it for now. Good day from Paris, Tennessee, that is.